I've known Ro, God, I'm 91 and she's 94, and we've known each other since we're kids. And, watching it hit me. By the way, the first time she ever saw it, it was at her house, and I was sitting next to her, and I was holding her hand. And I've known her, as I said, a long time, and she cried. It was just so wonderful. Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Nope, you're very cute in the movie, by the way. Yeah.
I was told to sparkle more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I come across as like being nasty or something? I don't know.
The film, which really amazes me, is that Jason and Christina Wise, they are these young, I'm talking about early 30s. They put this whole thing together. And how did that happen, by the way? How did Jason and Christina even, did they know your mother? What?
Actually, is this on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had been approached 2 or 3 times to have somebody do a film on my mother, and most of them were fly-by-nights, I have to say.
Incidentally, this is Christina Wise. I was thinking of this child. She wrote it, and she and her darling husband put it all together. Can you believe that? I'm sorry.
No, I had gotten a call from Harlan, mother's publicist, that somebody wanted to do a documentary on her, and I thought, oh God, another one. And so I kind of put it off, to be very honest. I really did, and didn't call the person back. And finally, Harlan said to me, "Did you ever call this Jason Wise back?" And I said, "No, I better call him back." So I did, and we arranged to meet at Jerry's Deli in Los Angeles. And when I saw Jason and Christina walk in, I said, oh my God, they could be my children. And I thought, how are they going to put together a 90-year career and be so young? I truly thought, oh, all right, okay. But Christina walked in with my mother's book and had about 45 tabs sticking out of the book. And one of the first things that Jason said to me was, your mother's life is far more than 5 years of the Dick Van Dyke Show. And Christina said, there's a marvelous love story here that should be told. And that's what sold me, to be quite honest, was the story of my father and their love and what they went through. And I said, okay. And Jason had said to me, he said, well, we know your mother's 90 years old. Can she talk? Can she? And I said, you're never gonna shut her up. So they came over and they met her, and we started to go through.
It became a love affair, actually. Yeah.
It actually did, yeah. And we all became so involved in it, and my mother saved everything. 75 scrapbooks, 16,000 feet of film. Every show that she ever did, she would ask these people, can I get a copy of that just so I can have it? And they go, yeah, and just stacks of 16 millimeter film that Jason and Christina went through and categorized and made, it was an unbelievable task to do it. And when you see it and you see these film clips that are in there, and the home movies that she and my father took. They constantly took home movies on their little 8 millimeter camera, and
that was like a filmmaker's dream. I mean, finding all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was hard work because we had to go through
True.
And Nubi helped us going through the house and finding things that even Nubi didn't know.
I had
existed,
no idea.
You know,
I had
and
no
finding
idea.
all that. But I mean, that is what you want when you have a subject with a great story and then they have all the footage to support it is incredible.
It
And
was
I love the
amazing.
way you recreated a lot of the, especially Chicago. Don't I love it? You know, it's such a kick for me because I worked with everybody in this film. And I would see Lou Holtz and Lenny Kent and Donald O'Connor. I'd see all these names that I've been in the business, 76 years, and I worked with everybody in this damn. They were talking about the Four Girls Four and Helen O'Connell. I've known Helen O'Connell since I was 12 years of age. She was my sister. My sister was an actress. Her name was Joanne Drew. You might remember her. And she and Helen named their children after each other. And I got to do Manhattan Tower with her. And then we would go on tour together. When Bob Everly couldn't do it, we'd do all the old Bob Everly, Helen O'Connell stuff. And I never had any problems with her, but viewing the whole thing, she was definitely a pain in the ass. But you know, Maggie Whiting, my God, and Rosie Clooney, and you know, Helen. I remember we had lunch together today. I couldn't remember who replaced Helen. It was K-Star,
Right.
yeah, who was really fun to be with.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Yeah, these four girls. I don't know if anybody in the audience ever saw this act, but it was a terrific act. Four terrifically talented people, let me tell you. Any questions you'd like to ask us, we certainly would try to answer anything. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Peter, this question is for you.
Yeah,
I remember when you worked with Noonan and Marshall,
right.
and you sang the most wonderful rendition of Embraceable You. Would you be able to sing it?
Well, let me tell you why I sang Embraceable You. I used to do a bit. We were working the wonderful, what's the name of the club? Anyway, and Jimmy Durante, Clayton Jackson and Durante were coming in to do a benefit. And they said, would you open for them? I said, open for Clayton Jackson? My God, yes. Incidentally, it's the last time they ever worked together because Clayton passed. And we went on, and we only had like 18 or 19 minutes when we first started. But we had thought about a thing, and they wanted more. We didn't have any more. And I said to Tommy, let's do what a singer thinks about. We had talked about it. And have you ever wondered what a singer thinks about? Like Tony Bennett singing the same goddamn song for 62 years. And so I would come out and I'd say, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I thank you for being such a wonderful audience. But before I go, I'd like to sing the song that put me on the map. Yes, this song is a Gershwin song, and I hope you love it. And Tommy would be backstage, and the first time he ever ad-libbed this thing, that's when we kept it for years. And I was like, embrace me, my sweet embraceable you. He would say, I think I'm going to get sick. Embrace me, you irreplaceable you. My God, there's a cute girl. And that's why I sang Embraceable You. Well, thank you for asking.
Question? Yes.
Did your mother and her father ever reconcile?
Did they ever reconcile? They never broke up.
No. Her father.
Oh, no, they never did. And as a matter of fact, when I was born, she sent him a telegram when I was born, and he didn't even acknowledge it. I never met him. I never knew anything about it. No.
Welcome, Paul.
So we found.
Who are we talking about?
Talking about my mother's father.
Oh, yes. Oh, your
My
great grandfather.
grandfather.
Yes, your grandfather. That great
We
American.
found one letter.
Yes, that great American.
We found one letter in her scrapbook.
Really?
Oh yeah. From him to her, and it was
It was what?
It
This
was
is
just
the first
a-
time hearing this now.
there's parts of her scrapbook. It's weird because you look through someone's scrapbook for so many years, and you learn so much about their life. And it was just I know what you're doing kind of letter. And then after that was his obituary. And so she saved all of his obituaries. And so I do think Rosemary had a little bit of peace with it
I think so. I
when
think
he
you're right.
passed.
Yeah.
Because
You're right.
that letter, like those 3 pages said something to me of just like, okay, she saved this one letter he wrote and his obituaries. And it's funny because it was the last 3 pages of the scrapbook. And
Interesting.
it like closed out a year. It was like a weird kind of, because you know, some scrapbooks were 2 scrapbooks a year. So she had a lot of scrapbooks, guys, like a lot.
Like over 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, watching the girls, it was a whole era. There's nothing like this today. The young people today don't, you know, I mean, Rose started out at 3 8. Rosie Clooney was on her own. Her mother had taken taken Nick, her brother, to California, and the father he'd left. And Rosie at 14, took her baby sister and went up to Cincinnati and got a job singing with the Tony Pastor Band. None of us really have an education, except maybe, I don't know, maybe Maggie. Because her dad was a famous songwriter. But we learned by watching and by doing. And I was just watching all these performers and talking about it. None of us really went to school. We have been on our own since we're kids and fighting and going. And it's easy if you're a guy, but to be a woman, I go back. I can remember the tough dames like Sophie Tucker or Bill Barth. You have to be old to remember Bill Barth. Jean Carroll. What the heck was her name? The great impressionist. Anyway, they were all kind of the same. And Joan Rivers had that sort of attitude, but she didn't have that background really. She developed that. But they were all fighters, and they hung in there, and they just fought and fought. And so when it comes to an end, you go, Jesus, what am I going to do?
Well, and that was one thing that inspired me so much about this story was I was reading her story and I was like, oh, she's a working mom. I'm a working mom in show business. At the time of like 2014, when I first read her book, I had just lost my job. I was applying for new jobs. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And that was something that Rosemary talked about in her book, and something she is very familiar, finding the next job. How do you find the next job? You got to take care of your family, you got to pay your bills, you got to watch your kid. How do you do this? And I was like, okay, I can completely relate to this. As a mom in 2000, whatever, she was doing this in the 50s. I mean, this is a woman who was doing this years before I even tried to do this. And I'm still struggling. It's still hard. And she is just like, and I asked her about it. She's like, I just did it. You know, and she's just got this like, I just did it. You know, you just get through it. You don't sweat the small stuff. You just do it. You get through it.
Exactly.
Her dad, by the way, was the cutest guy in the world. I worked with her dad many times. I worked with Bobby, the NBC Orchestra, the Les Brown Band, and they were just an adorable couple. And you and your husband captured everything. You should be so proud, Christina.
They really did.
It's just a wonderful film. I love it so very, very much.
Part. I mean, I wanted to show somebody who, you know, a lot of a couple that is in love. And, they're great. They're great people. They worked hard. They both accomplished a lot, and they were in love, and they did things. And you know,
it's rare now.
It is rare. Sadly, it's rare.
It's kind of
Somebody
rare.
said to me, "When are you going to write your book?" And I said, "I'm not going to write a book." I said, "If you want to read a book about my era, pick up Hold the Roses by Rosemary." And
We have a question
yeah.
here, Pete.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that one of the great gifts of this film is all that 8mm color. That is just miraculous up there. And I mean, just to see the Dick Van Dyke Show in color, to see Jimmy Durante in color, to see all these amazing clips. I mean, how in the world were you able to narrow down the ones you had? Because she documented, it seems like, your entire lives.
We found, I happened to mention to Jason one day, I said, there's a cabinet in the back, I think that might have some film. But Jason was always afraid he was going to miss something. no matter what, he literally found stuff under the couch in the back room. And I
That
said,
is true. That is very
where
true.
did
I
you
mean-
find that? And he said, I found it under the couch in the back room, which was kind of like our junk room. You know, sometimes you have a junk room, and I said, where? And so I said, but there's a cabinet here, and he opened it up, and it was like, and there was all just stacks of home movies, just stacks, and that was the holy grail at that point.
And she filmed so many guest shots that she did, and obviously we couldn't list them all because that would be just like a runoff of her IMDb
We'd still
page.
be here, it would be gone
Yeah,
with
it
the
would
wind.
be like a 3-hour documentary. So like we tried to like, you know, put as much as we could in there because she had so many incredible things. It was like we were going through the picture. We're like, I mean, her scrapbooks, her videos. This is a documentarian's like dream. I mean, we found the treasure chest of somebody's life, and it was all true. Like we would go through a scrapbook. She'd tell us a story, and it'd be like, holy shit! Here's the invite with the exact date and all the people she listed. Like everything is right. Wow, this woman is sharp as she knew it all. You know.
The reason Jason isn't here, by the way, is that he's in another theater.
He's in another theater.
Yeah.
There's a question here, yes.
So two
Angelica.
questions. First, first, does your mother still have all those fabulous gowns and outfits that I want? That's the first thing. The second is, how did you come to Rosemarie? Like, there seems to be a disconnect age-wise. Like, how did you find her? Were you a fan? What did you see her in that made you want to read the book and learn more? You can decide who answers what question first.
Okay, you
Okay. All right, I'll take the gowns, you take, okay. Yes, she still has some gowns, you know, of course, when we were trying to raise money for this film, because this has been the little engine that could film, chugging up the hill, we went on Kickstarter. And so some of the gowns that, you know, she will never wear or fit into or whatever, we did put up on sale for some folks to buy. But yes, we still have that. We still have a lot of furs, which a lot of people don't want furs anymore. But
Yeah, right.
yeah, but they don't want furs anymore. But in her era, a fur was a big deal, and to have a fur coat when she was 20 was a big deal,
Yeah.
and so she's reluctant to give up the furs, and it's still kind of there. But yeah, there are some marvelous gowns, beaded, heavy, you know, and you see some of them on the 4 Girls 4 piece, because again, when they first started out on 4 Girls 4, everybody kind of wore their own outfits and all, and then Mother took charge and said, no, we'll all come out in red, and we'll all have to, and you know, for the curtain call, and we'll all have to be in red, and we'll all have to have beaded gowns, and they're going, okay, and then Helen goes, well, I'm going to have chiffon, I'm not going to have beaded. And Mother went, fine, wear whatever the hell you want. But yes, so now Christina can answer.
So I worked at TV Guide for about 8 years, and I worked in various different departments, from the red carpet, live shows, to the news department. I always got stuck on the somebody just died, you gotta come in and do a death special. So I was always doing these like retellings of someone's life, and it was great because these people accomplished amazing things. But when Jason was working for Yahoo at the time, and he met Harlan, who's Rosemary's publicist, and he goes, who do you think has the best story in Hollywood? It's like, you have to meet Rosemary. And our kind of thought was, we want to tell somebody's story before they die. We want to get their story out there. He wanted to tell the story of Hollywood. I just want to tell someone's story, like while they had the chance. because I just felt like these open specials were such a cheat and not fair. And so I wanted to say, let's give somebody a chance to like get on camera. I wish I would have done this with my grandparents. I wish I would have sat every one of them down and said, tell me about your life. Where did you live? What did you do? And, you know, my grandmothers died at 16 and 21. I wish I would have had the knowledge and the chance to do this. I mean, Rosemary is such an inspiration. And to sit someone down and say, okay, tell me about your life, what you did, especially somebody who accomplished so much. And she just, as a woman, she did a lot of things, and she can inspire younger people. And it just, and I thought this is an important thing. Now we had the challenge of, she name dropped a lot, and names that our generation or younger might not know, which is, and things like vaudeville, in 5 years, people might not know what that is, or 10 years, younger generations, which is why we wrote the narration that we did and had Peter voice over it, because we wanted anybody of any generation to be able to sit down and watch this film and understand and not be left out and feel included in this history that Rosemary lived.
Incidentally, Van Dyke and Carl, we all saw that. I had seen it with Roe, and then we had the big premiere in Hollywood, and Dick loved it, and then Carl said, you know, I've been around writing a lot of stuff. He says, it's the best damn documentary I've ever seen. And Carl could be tough, you know, Mr. Ryan. The young lady had a question, yes?
Two things. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for creating such a loving and civilized piece. It was so absorbing and such a nice break from the stuff that we seem to be exposed to day in and day out these days. And I wondered who your next subject is.
Our next subjects, they are sea urchin divers. So it's kind of a total take. So our first two films were on wine. We followed the Master Sommelier exam. It is one of the lowest pass rates. There's only a 5% pass rate. So we kind of entered the documentary world in this like food and wine world, and we're doing a third Somm film. So any Somm films? Okay. So and then delicacy is on sea urchins, and we'd like to get into oysters and caviar and kind of. It's such a crazy, the fishermen that work so hard to pull out this really tiny little expensive food that won't actually fill your tummy at all, and what they have to go through it to give you that, I think is kind of a cool experience. But we have a lot of different things in the pipeline, and they will be announced soon.
We have time for one more question.
Time for one more.
One more question.
In the back, I see, but I'm so damn deaf, I couldn't hear what the hell you were.
Well, I can hear it.
I just
Yes.
want to thank all of you for.
Wait.
Yes, we do have one.
All right,
Is there plans for a home DVD release of this?
yes.
Is there a plan for what, I'm sorry?
Yes, it will be announced, we're hoping early 2018. It will probably go to iTunes, Amazon, that kind of steps first, and then, yes, definitely DVD is in the works.
By the way, the reviews have been sensational. New York Times came out today with a rave. Yes. Congratulations, kids. Hey, thank you all. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, guys.